Founded in Minneapolis in 1956, House of Kolor emerged as the original custom paint brand, introducing the industry's first organic pigment formulations, groundbreaking candy colors, chameleons, and other iconic innovations trusted by professional painters, builders, and hobbyists alike. For 70 years, House of Kolor hasn't just made paint, it has defined what custom color means, shaping not only the look of cars and motorcycles, but the culture behind them. Today, its products are available through distributors and Sherwin-Williams branches across North America as the brand continues to influence the next generation of custom creators. I'm Jay Sicht, editor-in-chief of FenderBender magazine, and those of you who know me know that I'm a hot rodder, street rodder, custom enthusiast at heart, and we have a special treat today. Joining us today is Jon Kosmoski. He's the founder of House of Kolor, and today we'll be talking about the origin, the influence, and for 70 years, how House of Kolor has stood at the forefront of custom refinish. We'll learn and discuss how House of Kolor has committed to honoring the artists and innovators who helped build its legacy while continuing to inspire and support future generations of custom creators. Jon, welcome to this quick chat. I'm just really excited to learn how you got started in the custom paint business.
Kind of by accident. I started painting helmets for my friends and small gas tanks in my mom's basement until the fumes got to her. And when the fumes
Hmm.
got to her, I had no choice. I had to find another place to work. And a good friend of mine knew a guy that had a body shop, and he allowed me to rent a stall. So I rented a space to just work on my parts. I wound up buying him out, by the way, a few
Oh,
years later. And that's how I got started in the auto body repair business.
I understand you painted quite a few parts in the basement, right?
And I told one of my friends that had a Honda dealership, I said, "Hey, why don't you take those parts off and give them to me and let me have them for a couple of days?" And I did a candy apple red on a CL 77, and he put it on the floor and it sold in 20 minutes. He said,
Huh.
"John, we got to do more of this," and that got me started. And a lot of the Honda dealers started coming to me, and before you knew it, I had a business painting motorcycles. So that was the beginning. Really, it got me started. Of course, everything back then was nitrocellulose. You could make
Hmm.
candies with I mean, I've gone through the entire change in the industry because when I got into it, it was nitrocellulose
Huh.
and synthetics.
Uh-huh.
That's all there was. So
So
it was
acrylic.
either the alkyd enamel jobs or
Hmm.
or nitro. That was it.
Acrylic lacquer hadn't even come out yet then.
No, no, that didn't come out until 50. I think the first year that they did it full time on the assembly line at General Motors was 57, but it
Hmm.
didn't get into the industry thick for a few years. And then I realized they were going to discontinue the nitrocellulose, and I thought, well, I'm out of business if I don't like these
Uh,
acrylics. So I went down and bought a pint of every one of the new toners, and they were all mud. Every one of them
huh.
were mud. They didn't have any of the transparency or clarity or look
Oh,
of the nitros. I thought, man, I'm out of business. I got to figure out what I'm going to do. And that's what started my thinking on I got to start making stuff like the nitros using the new acrylics. And that's what got me thinking. Started going to the library, figuring out how paint was made. So that was the beginning.
so that was how you were solving, which was what amounted to a pigment crisis for you, right? Like starting your research at
Exactly
the
the word
library.
is that you're correct on that word, Jay, because the problem was the organic pigments would not go into the plastic. And that's what acrylic and
Oh,
urethanes, they're all plastics. And they couldn't get the organics to go in there. And my wife was taking a night course on oil painting. And the guy next to her was cleaning his brush with some really exotic chemicals. And she said, "Well, how do you know about stuff like that?" He said, "Well, I'm a doctor of polymer chemistry. And currently, I'm working with the company on trying to get these pigments to go into the acrylics." I said, "Oh my God, if I could just talk to this guy." Well, he had to clear it with his company.
Huh.
Because at the time I had a small body shop, and they said, well, we're not worried about you talking to some guy with a small body shop. So he helped me understand how this was going to work in the future and gave me a leg up on the competition, I think.
Now, were you did you start and build the House of Color brand at this time, or did you develop the colors first, or what was the timeline for that?
Basically, I was messing with colors way before, but
Hmm.
when I bought Tom's Auto Body out, when I bought Tom, I changed the name of it to House of Color, and I spelled it with a
Oh,
C back then.
okay.
I've got some pictures of that old shop somewhere around, but anyway, yeah. When I moved to the new building, I bought another building in early '60s, and when I bought the new building, I changed the color to K to because of my
Uh-huh.
last name,
Yeah.
Kosmoski, and that's it's been that way ever since.
What was your inspiration for your first colors? And I know what I know about
My
pigment.
inspiration was I wanted the best stuff for me.
Hmm.
I never intended to sell a quart of it to
Huh.
anyone. That happened when I started winning awards. I mean, I started winning best paint awards. I think when I quit competing, I had won over 70 best paint awards
Huh.
in the car shows around here, and so painters started coming to me and saying, "Hey, John, could you get me a gallon of that, or could you get me a quart of that?" So then I started doing my homework and got myself a label, and that was the beginning, really, of it all.
And that year was what year was that?
That would have been 62,
Okay.
63, right in that range.
What drives you to now or then to create a custom system, and what pride have you taken that?
Well, you said it. I mean, pride. It was basically I wanted to be the best at what I did.
Hmm.
I mean, I have a perfectionist attitude. I mean, we all know that true perfection doesn't exist, but in my mind, I wanted to make it better and better and better and make my jobs better and better. So it came down to the work ethic. There was no work that was too much to get what I wanted. So I hired a
Huh.
guy that went to North Dakota State to the paint school there, and he was very, very smart, but he helped me a lot to get those pigments incorporated. And I didn't. I asked him. I said, "Well, why do they use inorganic pigments?" He said, "John, there's only one reason to use inorganic pigments." He said, "They're earthbound and they're always a little dirty, but they
Mm.
use them to save money. I mean, the difference is like $25 a pound for the inorganic earthbound pigments, or to get an organic pigment, it's like 65 to $85 a pound."
Huh.
And I said, "Well, it's all about cost savings?" I said, "Yeah, that's what he told me." And I said, "Well,
Oh.
I don't care. I want the best. I'm only going to
Huh.
use organic pigments." And I never used anything but organic pigments. I mean, nobody did that. Nobody did that. In today's world, if you bought a quart with all organic pigments, like on a Viper Red or something like that, you're going to spend 150, 200. I was selling at $50 a quart back in the day.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I didn't realize what I had, and I didn't realize that I was giving it away. But that's how it began. Got to make the mistakes.
What would you say your top three highlights are, or call them wow moments for House of Color?
Well, I think the big one was I went to a paint show in the '90s in Washington D.C. and no, it wasn't in the '90s. I'm sorry, it was in the '80s, early '80s, and a guy had a painted tricycle on the floor there at the show, and I said, "What's this all about?" I said, "It looks like a candy color." He said, "Well, it's kind of a transparent, yeah," but he said, "We have developed the encapsulation process to encapsulate the metallics and the pearls so they don't move when you put the top coats on." I
Ah.
said, "I want to know about this." He said, "I've been at this show for a whole day. You're the only one that showed any interest in what I'm doing."
Huh.
And he said, "I have one paper left that I can give you. And here's my phone number. Call me if you want to know more about it."
Sure.
Well, I learned how to encapsulate the metallics and the pearls. And that's the next year I came out with the urethanes. That was a boon moment for this company when we could offer candies and we could offer base coats. You used to have to base a car on one day and let it dry overnight, come
Mm,
in the next morning and put the candy on, try to have that on by noon, and then wait a couple hours before you cleared it. Because if
mm,
you didn't, you would move the base.
right.
All of that solvent and all of that material would start to make the base, which was a perfectly even base, would now start to model.
Yeah.
Well, once you went into this encapsulation process, it was all over. You could paint it in 15 minutes and
Oh,
the
wow.
base would not move. So that was really, of course, discovering my candies the way I made them was another big thing. I mean, back in the lacquer era, we were lacquers until then, until the early 80s.
Hmm.
But I had
Hmm.
always already been working with urethanes for quite a while, trying to find the right resin system. You know, I wasn't capable of building my own resins back then. I
Right.
bought resins from the big guys, you know. So I'd buy drums of resin, you know, 10 or 12 drums at a time. And we grew fast, though, man. We really grew fast. It was hard to pay the bills.
Mm. Well, I imagine that that encapsulation kind of broadens the market reach
That was
that you
huge.
had, right?
We were growing
Hmm.
at 50% a year.
Oh, yeah.
Think
But that
about that. Trying to
but
keep up with that.
that encapsulation lets a little lesser skilled painter successfully do a candy paint job, right?
You got it. That was a
Yeah.
big key to everything, you know. Because if you started moving too fast, you'd move that base, and now you were
Hmm.
nowhere. You had to go
Yeah.
back to square one.
Yeah. Well, I've seen a lot of brilliant candy jobs over the years with your products on it. But when did you realize that this was more than just paint? That this was really a culture?
And I don't know. It took a long time for me to realize that. I guess I just kept doing what I was doing. And yeah, when some of the big guys came to me, you know, like Billy Gibbons from
Hmm.
ZZ
ZZ Top.
Top, he wanted his Cadillac painted, and he said, I want it to look like a dark black,
That
but when
Cadzilla.
it's in the
Yeah.
sun, I want it to light up. Yep. So
Eggplant, right?
I got on a bunch of egg. That's what he called it, eggplant.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, we've been friends ever since. But anyway, it's that kind of thing. You know, that was when I started realizing when some of the big guys started coming to me and asking for products and stuff. So yeah, you started thinking you are doing something a little bit different, you know.
Yeah. One of my favorite beer commercials, seeing that Cadzilla pop up over the hill back in the late 80s, probably early
Oh,
90s.
it's still iconic. And then we did the paint for Frankenstein as well.
Hmm.
That iconic Studebaker, which is again, those were milestone cars, and we were on them, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, you started to realize, hey, you are doing something special, you know. And then we taught it. I mean, I was on the road for almost 40 years
Hmm.
teaching it. You know, I'd go out and I'd paint in front of them. I mean, you wouldn't believe the stuff I'd paint in 3 hours in front of them and show them how to blend pearls so you could go from one color to the next. I'd do a 4 color blend with pearls and say, look, if you can tell where one color changed and the other one begins, I did it wrong.
Aha.
And I'd showed them how to do that. And I showed them how to put the candies on and do it right, you know, how to
Yeah.
engineer the object. You know, that's a big thing. Engineering the object and knowing what your moves are going to be before you do it, you know.
Across 70 years, John, you've certainly had a lot of takeaways. I mean, you were just bringing up some of them just now, but thinking back, what would you tell yourself 40 or to 50 years ago?
Oh, let's see. What would I tell myself? How did you get into this business? It was everything was by accident, really, kind of how it happened. You know, once I got into it, I found out because I went to Dunwoody for mechanics. I was a
Ah.
certified mechanic. I mean, I had all the, I was for automatic transmission, carburation, tune-up, valve jobs. I went to
Hmm.
school for all of that, and I thought that's what I was going to be a mechanic.
Huh.
Well, of course, I kept that for a hobby, and I build cars from the frame up now, and do all of it, you know. So, but the painting became such a love. It was just there was something about making something beautiful that never gets old. I mean, you take a raw piece of steel and whether it be motorcycle parts or a car or whatever it is, and make a thing of beauty out of it. Let me tell you something that does not get old, and there's such a passion for it and that passion lives today in all the painters that are out there. they all have that same feeling about what they're doing. You know, they want to be the best, they want it to look the best, and they want to use the best materials that can be made. And that was my goal. I did not cheat on anything when it came to ingredients. I used the best of everything that was available to me at the time. Like I said, pure 100% organic pigments. Nobody was doing that. Nobody, no other paint company that I ever heard of was doing that. I was it. And I didn't even know how to tell people what I was doing that was so much greater. I
Huh.
never did. You share that with anybody. I just thought, yeah, well, they liked the colors. You know, when I came out with my PBCs, the pearl base coats, I mean, I started out with 24 of those and I knocked people's socks off with that stuff. I mean,
Hmm.
one year Tangelo was our highest seller, you know, the Tangelo Pearl. In fact, I just saw a car in Street Scene magazine last month. It got best paint at the show and it was Tangelo. So it's
Uh-huh.
still a very popular color. But all those colors, you would not believe this. I'm going to tell you something that you're not going to believe. I developed all 24 of those colors in less than 2 weeks
Oh,
by
wow.
myself, spending time in that shop. And if I told you how I did it, my chemist said, we can't do it that way. We have to do a strict formula. I said, look, I'm going to be here into sometime next year. If I do a strict formula on every one, I want to find out which pearl is the best pearl for that pigment. And I did it with hundreds and hundreds of quart can lids. I'd put a
Oh.
drop of this, I'd put a drop of the pigment, and I'd swirl it around and then look at it under a 300-watt bulb, and I'd
Huh.
say this is the best pearl. I'd put a Y or an N. If the N, it meant I didn't want that pearl in that particular one, and if I put a Y, then I'd look at all the ones that were Ys and say, okay, which one is the best of these to put in this particular pigment, and that's how those colors were developed. Nobody believes I did that in 2 weeks. I did.
That's a marathon session.
Well, I stayed there. You know, I mean, for many years, 17 years, I put in 14-hour days. I'd come in early in the morning, and I was the last one to leave. I'd be there. When I developed these, I was there till midnight every night. But I had a passion for it. I mean, it wasn't like
Hmm.
I was working. I was having a ball. You know, I
Yeah.
knew I was doing something big. And those pearls dominated for decades, man. They still, in some respects, they still do.
Oh, for sure. But what would your younger self tell you today?
Well, I would have been a lot better salesman, which meant I would have grown faster. Because it's amazing
Uh,
how long it took people to catch on to what I was doing. I mean, we were busy in a state area, then a three-state area, then a seven-state area. And finally, some of the guys from the West Coast started catching on to what we were doing, and I teamed up with Bob Berg, who had a paint company in L.A. He was in the old Sherwin-Williams manufacturing paint building. He bought it, and he was making primers and other things. And he
uh-huh.
liked what I was doing, and he took me under his wing. And we couldn't get a warehouse to take me on. I was
Huh.
too young and too new, and nobody wanted to take a chance with me. And Bob said, well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to bring it in and I'm going to be your warehouse for a while till we convince some of these other people what you're doing. And so he was a big push for me to get me started in the West Coast. And it wasn't very long after that happened that they started to realize that there was something special coming out of Minnesota.
Well, John, you gave us a lot of great insights today. Many thanks for all your time and all your service and contributions to our industry.
Oh, it's a passion, my friend. You know, it's you know, if I didn't get paid, I'd still do it. I love it.
I can sense that.
You
Yep,
don't get tired. Like I said, you never get tired of making something beautiful. And when you know you did it with your own hands, you know, there's pride of workmanship that does not go away.
definitely. For our viewers, if you're looking to learn more on these unique colors or for more information on House of Color, visit the link or QR code on your screen or contact your local House of Color distributor or Sherwin-Williams representative. I'm Jay Sicht. Thanks for listening to FenderBender's Quick Chat with industry legend Jon Kosmoski and for celebrating 70 years of excellence with House of Color.